All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this week's edition of Roundabout Sports, presented by Interstate 70 Sports Media, where our passion is our profession. Thank you so much. It is Wednesday, May 17th, 2023. I am the Maestro, Jeremy Carp, alongside our lovely Babs. How are you this evening?
I'm doing okay. How are you?
I'm doing all right. It's been a crazy day. It's been a crazy week. We got a lot to talk about, and I think we should definitely kick it off. Um, and bring up the fact that SICW had an amazing fan fest last week.
Yes, it did. And it was amazing. It was definitely amazing to be a part of it.
Oh, absolutely. And that was the great thing about it was, we were there. The Falls Count Everywhere podcast was there. So many other vendors. But more importantly, it was the names that were there. You had yourselves, JBL, you had Teddy Long, Earl Hebner, Victoria, Miranda Gordy, Niles Plunk, Baron von Ratsky. There's so Ross Hart, like there was so many that were there that we had the pleasure of meeting and knowing, and those are the type of events. And a big shout out to Herb Simmons for putting everything together and the wrestling show itself. Now, keep in mind, and also can't forget the newest inductees, one of whom we interviewed into the St. Louis Wrestling Hall of Fame. It was Gerald Briscoe. But Gerald Briscoe and JJ Dillon both got inducted, and congratulations to both of them on this amazing achievement.
No kidding. No kidding. And we also got to speak of just like very briefly with JJ Dillon too, right there at the end.
Yeah, we did. It was really nice getting to hear from JJ Dillon as well. But no, Herb
Yeah.
Simmons did an amazing job. It was at the Aviator Hotel and Suites in St. Louis. Um, and just it was crowded from the morning to night. It was just crowds packing in for this amazing event. Um, so
I think the highlight of my weekend was Enzo Amore being there.
yeah, and we apologize to the fans for Enzo stepping out on us.
Yes.
We Enzo said he would be on, and he ended up not showing, doing a no show for us. But oh well. And so yeah, that's where we're at. But it was a wonderful event. And you know what else has been wonderful? At least on this side of the state that we live at, the fact that the Cardinals are actually winning some ball games.
Yay! And they're actually winning 1-0 currently.
Yes, and that credit to Nolan Arenado for Arenado becoming just the third primary first baseman since 1920 with 300 home runs and 1,000 RBIs before playing his 1,500th career game. The only two others to do that are Hall of Famers Eddie Matthews and Chipper Jones. And right now, I mean, Arenado's at 1425 career games. He just needs 2 more RBIs and one more home run to tie Chipper Jones. And he can easily still pass Eddie Matthews. Although I feel like the home run mark would be a little tough to beat because he's at 376. But congratulations to Nolan Arenado on that fantastic accomplishment. Just add it to the future Hall of Fame resume.
Right, no kidding. I was just getting ready to ask you, do you think that that solidifies him as a first ballot?
I don't like the whole first ballot, second ballot things as far as Hall of Famers go. I honestly could care less. I think you're just as much a Hall of Famer one way or another. Because guess what? At the end of the day, somebody like Red Shandies, who is a Veterans Committee, is just as much a member of the Hall of Fame as Mariano Rivera, who was a unanimous inductee. Um,
Right. I see what
George
you're saying.
opinion. Jared thinks he's a second ballot Hall of Famer, and I could see that. Another thing that comes into play when it comes to Hall of Famers and what position they'll be inducted in is simply the fact of just when you look at who's retired and in that same class as them. So Pujols and Molina are going to be going against each other on the same ballot, which could
That's
easily
true.
mean one of them doesn't. Now, I think if anything, it would affect Yadier Molina's Hall of Fame chance for a first ballot. And if he doesn't get in first ballot, we already know Yadi's getting in on the second. Because Pujols is unanimously going to get in.
Yes, that's true.
Um, and I also like this. I think fame plays a big factor in the first ballot. The good doctor
I
himself
totally, yeah.
says that
Molina
Molina is
is not
not
a,
a first ballot Hall of Famer. I think you could very well make the argument. You could also make the argument of Buster Posey. Molina over the past 15 to 20 years, Yadier Molina and Buster Posey were arguably the two greatest catchers. And because this was the tail end of a lot of great careers like Joe Mauer's, Ivan Rodriguez. But then you got guys like Salvador Perez, who I think can still make a case to be a Hall of Famer. But once again, say he's a fifth ballot or a sixth ballot, it's just as much anything else. So
right.
when Jared's talking about fame, I mean, take into account this. Nolan Arenado played so many years with the Rockies. Think of all, the bad rep that it gets for playing with the Rockies. And just the fact that teams were not very good for the most part when he played. And I'm guessing in the background you got yourself the Cardinal game, keeping track.
Yeah, I do. It's still 1-0 currently. I don't know what inning they're in. That's like the second or third. Oh, it's the third.
Okay, well, right now we also got another comment in from the good doctor about Hall of Fame. So, offense sells tickets. Molina was an average, if slightly above average hitter. At the beginning, Molina was a very light hitter. And look, when Molina gets in the Hall of Fame, it's going to be because of his defense. He is arguably the greatest, top three at very least, defensive catchers of all time. But yes, when it came down to it, guys like Buster Posey, Joe Mauer, were the usual overall better hitters than Yadier Molina. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You look at the statistics of the Cardinals and base runner percentage of getting thrown out and how many stolen bases opponents have over the last 20 years, and the discrepancy between the Cardinals and the other teams. And the Royals are on there too because of Salvador Perez's amazing attributes. I think Molina's resume speaks for itself. And
Well,
Babs, I want you to take the floor on this one, Babs. Take a floor on the good doctor's comment here.
Arenado is one of the best defensive third basemen of this generation and a great hitter. He will be a first ballot, no doubt. Yeah, see, I kind of agree with that too. Just because you were naming people like, Chipper Jones and yeah, so I kind of see that too.
Exactly. So I can see him being a first ballot. I can even see Paul Goldschmidt. I think the one thing that would lock them in is a World Series ring. If they both get a World Series before they retire, they're going as a first ballot.
Do you know how AJ Pierzynski was as a hitter?
As far as AJ Pierzynski goes, he wasn't the worst. This is how it is with AJ Pierzynski when it came to his hitting. So he was a career 280 hitter, so he was pretty good. He had over 2,000 hits, 188 home runs, 909 RBIs. He hit for average, which was one thing. But you know what? I do like what I want to play back to what Jared says. fame plays a big factor in first ballot. Now, AJ Przinsky is never going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, but
No.
what I do like is the fact of his personality. It's what made him famous. It's his colorful personality, his attitude, everything, his brashness. That's why people know who AJ Przinsky is. Um, and of course, he was with the Cardinals in 2014.
Yes, that
And
was the greatest day. Actually, AJ Przinsky is my favorite catcher. It wasn't even Yachty to begin with. AJ was my favorite only because he was on Impact Wrestling for a while.
yeah,
So,
I mean, I like what Ozzie Guillen once said about AJ Przinsky. If you play against him, you hate him. If you play with him, you hate him a little less.
yeah,
So
and
that's the
I
best way to
think
put it.
I think there was a quote from him one time where he was talking to an umpire and he was like, he kept handing balls back to him and he was like, "What's wrong with him?" And he was like, "I'm trying to find one that you can see."
That's correct.
And he got ejected from he got ejected from the game for that.
Yeah, back when he could
So,
actually toss in. Hey, Chad, thank you so much for tuning in. It's always a pleasure. The St. Louis Cardinals fan page, be sure to check them out on Facebook. Wonderful group of loyal Cardinal fans right there. Always a pleasure. So, you were talking about Nolan Arenado's recent accomplishment, and it's his recent surge that spearheaded the Cardinals going from being 10-24 to suddenly winners of 7 of their last 9, potentially 8 of their last 10 if they can pull out a victory tonight. Um,
right.
so what do you think is what's really spearheaded this shift of momentum for the Cardinals?
Well, actually, I was just getting ready to mention that I saw a tweet from Katie Wu. She's like one of the beat writers for the Cardinals, and she said that Paul Goldschmidt called a team meeting before the games on, I think it was Sunday, to talk about, things that were going on and basically hash it out and be like, get everything off of your chest about what's bothering you so we can get better. And well, this has kind of happened in front of our eyes, like basically overnight. So I'm wondering if that kind of had a little bit of a momentum push too.
I could definitely see it, and I think one thing that's great about the Cardinals is the fact there is a lot of leaders in that locker room. You do got, even without Molina and Pujols, you got your Arenado, you got your Paul Goldschmidt. I mean, that alone, too, and we've gone on praising them like crazy. You got your Adam Wainwrights, you got your Miles Michaelis, you know, and give
Our
him a few
pitching
years.
isn't bad. It's just been very inconsistent. That's the thing. It's not like, we have terrible pitching. It's just we have pitching that's sometimes good. And then if they're on, they're really on. But if they're not, they're really not.
Well, the
So,
problem is that you
yeah, it's
don't have
just
a consistent rotation. The rotation was struggling so much throughout the first month of the season. Now they're finally picking it back up, which is great to see. But, people were talking about the Cardinals' rejuvenated rotation is going to help them. And, of course, their acquisition of Wilson Contreras is going to be the reason they become World Series contenders. And, when you have your worst start to the season in 50 plus years, it's the reasons we had just mentioned. Um, I mean, take a look at Contreras, for example. They ended up moving him to the outfield to just DHing. Now they're finally getting him back behind the plate, but it just takes some moves to get around. And let's take a look at what Jared just said. The Cardinals are starting off iffy, but what matters is how they end. Look, like just in the XFL, I forgot what it was, but a team had 3-6 and made it to the championship game. Yeah, that was the Arlington Renegades, and the Renegades
mm-hmm.
defeated the DC Defenders. And people are upset because a team, essentially a losing team, ended up beating arguably the best team in the league. But it goes without saying, it's any given game. So I look at the
Right.
Cardinals. It is, and the Cardinals have proven time and time again, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. Um, but if the Cardinals were to somehow come back and make a deep playoff run or even bigger than that, would you consider this the greatest comeback in team history?
Yeah, I could. Well, maybe it would be a toss up between the Mike Schill team that was really, really bad at the beginning, but then they went on that 17 game like winning streak or something at the end to get them into the playoffs. So maybe I would say that this would be like top five, maybe like two
Yeah,
or three. I'll say two or three.
I mean, you got your 2011 team. You got your Mike Schilt with the 17 game win streak. You
Yes.
let's just throw out the sake of the argument. You got the 2006 team that fought and clawed their way. You got the 1985 Cardinals who started in the cellar and then worked their way to the World Series. I mean, there's a lot of great Cardinal comeback story. There's also what's I believe it was the 1964 season, if not the 67 season. It was one of those two where the Cardinals had the big surge and the Phillies ultimately had a massive historic collapse of epic proportions.
Mm-hmm.
So there's so many different Cardinals comebacks. Right now, like I said, they're still winning. They've made some moves. I also want to send a special congratulations to Oscar Mercado, who finally,
Mm-hmm.
after 10 years after being drafted by the organization, he's finally going to be making his debut for the team.
Didn't
Uh,
he get traded away for
he did get
someone?
traded away. Yep.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah. So, congratulations to um, Oscar on that accomplishment, on finally being getting to wear the big birds on the bat on the big league level. I also want to point out some interesting stats here. So another thing about Nolan Arenado, I just had to point out, he's the ninth Cardinal to hit a home run in 5 straight games. He has a chance to make it 6, and I'm thankful my dad's knowledgeable. It was the '64 Cardinals, where both the Reds and the Phillies finished 1 game each behind the Cardinals. And of course, back then you didn't have all these deep playoff formats. So back then, you wouldn't winner of the National League, winner of the American League goes on to the World Series. Uh,
Nato barely missed a home run by this much.
oh, and you know what's crazy? It would have made him just the third Cardinal to homer in 6 games, but as of now, he's the ninth to hit in 5 straight games. No, joining Jim Bottomley, Ripper Collins, Edmonds, Pujols, Ryan Ludwig, Mark McGuire, Matt Carpenter, and Goldie.
Oh, yeah. It was literally like this far away from the pole. If it would have been on the other side, it would have been a home run.
Oh
He's
man,
trying,
he really is
but
trying to
now he
get that
popped up.
going. So
Yeah.
let's go now to, as the Cardinals will still keep you updated, folks. Let's go to the other side of the state of Missouri. Um, and honestly, let's give a big time shout out to the Kansas City Royals, who beat the upstart, or I don't know if I'd even go upstart, the hyped up San Diego Padres. They won 4-3. Now, obviously, the Royals are still struggling. They are 10.5 back of first place, but they're 5-5 in their last 10. And after going 1-12 to start off at home, they are 5-5 in their past 10 home games. So baby steps once again. The Royals have had a lot more success outside the confines of Kauffman Stadium, but yes, the Kansas City Royals, and also this is a stat I have to throw out there. Zach Greinke becomes the 5th pitcher in history to strike out 1,000 different players. Babs, that's crazy.
Wow. Yes, very much so.
There are only 3 batters. Oh, I'm sorry. four other pitchers to strike out 1,000 different batters. Nolan Ryan, Randy Johnson, Greg Maddux, and Roger Clemens. And he is
That's some
less
very
than
good company.
it is. And he is just 86 strikeouts away from 3,000 total strikeouts. So in his 20th season, the 39-year-old, I mean, in 9 starts, he's already recorded. Now, I want to put this into account. Obviously, all of these players that I mentioned pitched 20 or more years. Right now, Zach Greinke's at about 1,000 different batters. Nolan Ryan struck out 1,182 different batters, which really put that in perspective. Over 1,100 different players in the history of baseball struck out to Nolan Ryan. That's just crazy. And you know what's interesting? Zach Greinke has been around so many teams and so many leagues, over the course of the American. In fact, aside from the Royals, Greinke's never played for more than 4 years for any team. But he's faced off against completely different eras of rosters. So congratulations to Zach.
Yes. And how many innings did he go through the other night whenever he was on his no-hitter? Does it say?
I believe he went through about 8 innings.
He got through 8?
I believe so. I will fact check it. Yeah. Either way,
he said one time that he was close to a no-hitter, and someone asked him how he felt about it, and he said, honestly, I'm really glad that I didn't do that, because I would have to do that again every time to myself. And he was like, I'm the biggest enemy to myself. And he was just like, I'm actually really glad that didn't happen. So I'm wondering if he still feels the same way now that he's a little bit further into his career. Just to say he did it once, you know what I mean?
Right. And he is just, and there's another guy that sometime soon, I'll probably do a Cooperstown case article, but we can always talk about it on one of our future episodes about the case for Zach Greinke being a Hall of Famer. And I would love to hear the good doctor's thoughts on that, being a big Kansas City guy himself.
Right.
So while that goes on, folks, thank you so much for tuning in to Roundabout Sports on Wednesday, May 17th. I'm the Maestro Jeremy Karp alongside Babs. Babs, you had found out earlier today some interesting news from the world of hockey. Care to share that with us?
Apparently, the Coyotes were told no to build their new stadium, so I guess a relocation could be in their future.
So, yeah, where does it look like they have a good chance of moving? Because it doesn't look like they have. Right now, they're playing at Arizona State University, but they don't have their own. They can't even put their own logos and ads and sponsors there because that's not their arena. So they're being dry of money, so they're going to end up probably relocating. So that being the case, where do you see them going next?
I honestly don't know. Like the good doctor, he posted a thing from Mahomes saying that, it would be really cool to have a Kansas City team, and he kind of tagged the NHL, and that would be kind of cool because then we could have an I-70 rival between the Blues and the Kansas City team. So that would be my pick.
So, yeah, I'm looking. I saw the good doctor post that, and I'm going to see if I can get that on here. Here we go. So this is what Patrick Mahomes tweeted out earlier today. KC Coyotes has a nice ring to it, NHL. What y'all think? Honestly, I mean,
That
You
jersey's
know,
really cool too.
it's actually a really cool jersey. I
Yeah.
think Kansas. You know what? Kansas City. Okay, technically, Sporting KC is not in Kansas City, Missouri, but people consider Kansas City a three-team city. St. Louis and Kansas City are both underrated sports towns, and I feel I would be totally fine with them getting the Coyotes. I think San Diego would be another good one. San Diego's lost practically all but one sports team. Um, Houston could
But
be another.
California has so many teams already, though.
But yeah, but the thing, well, not necessarily. I mean, at this rate, okay, you got one in San Jose. Oakland has no teams left at this rate. Oakland's going to be blood drive sports teams. And don't get me, I know LA and, freaking San Francisco, I get it. But, you got one in Sacramento, one in San Jose, one in San Diego. Say you have another in San Diego, you know, and it happens. California's the biggest state in the country, over 35 million plus people. It's just kind of how it works. So,
Unfortunately.
yeah. So, I don't know. I would like to see it. The T-Mobile Arena could definitely house a hockey team. I feel that the fans would be able to really support one. Look, if St. Louis can support a soccer team, Kansas City can support a hockey team. So
And
that's
it's
just how
like
I.
I said, it would give us a new rivalry with Kansas City to spark too. So that would be kind of cool in that aspect.
Right. And I must say, there was one professional hockey team, NHL team that was in Kansas City. That was the Kansas City Scouts from 1974 to 1976. And they moved to Denver, became the Colorado Rockies hockey team. And then in 1982, they moved to New Jersey, where ever since they've been known as a little team called the New Jersey Devils. So how
Hmm.
about that? And see, there's the quote I was looking for. T-Mobile was built for hockey. So it makes sense. I think, look, you got some of the biggest figures in sports in Kansas City. You got Patrick Mahomes, you got Travis Kelsey, you got Salvador Perez. You know, you got hell, you even got Coach Andy Reid. So you got a lot of great sports history in Kansas City. So I think having a hockey team in Kansas City would be great. Um, Now, would it happen? Only time will tell. But yeah, that's where I stand on that issue.
Yeah.
So, um, also, there's something I wanted to bring up, and we're gonna sidetrack to a breaking news in regards to uh pro wrestling. Well, it's not so much pro wrestling, but it's partially. So I want to talk about this. Vice Media. So Vice Media, which airs like Dark Side of the Ring, Dark Side of the 90s,
Oh,
70s, 80s, all those documentaries, all those great documentaries out there, has filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. They were once valued at $6 billion.
oh
Right
my
now,
gosh.
within the next few months, they're valued at just $225 million. That is a steep drop from a $6 billion valuation. Um, and you know, it says there's a consortium involved with a bunch of investment groups that'll provide about a big credit bid, and it'll auction off the assets of the company. But it's just with so many different media conglomerates out there competing, Vice just unfortunately became the odd one out, at least at this point. So, now, Baz, what else do you have for us in the world of sports today?
I don't really know. It's kind of been a quiet news day all around. Um, I guess we can report that Bob Orton has reported that Randy Orton was told by doctors not to return to the ring.
Yeah, and it was interesting because we had heard something around those lines when we were at FanFest, but he had said, "quote
Yes,
He's one of the best they still got." Um, and Randy Orton having neck fusion surgery. It's Look, Randy Orton will go down as one of the greatest professional wrestlers of all time. Nothing will deny or
yes,
change that. But there's nothing wrong with going out while you still can. So,
right. I just want him to be healthy and not hurt himself anymore because I think he was born with some sort of a genetic something between his shoulders, and it's
right.
kind of been nagging for his adult life, I guess.
Yeah.
So
So, I want to give a
that's
quick
pretty
update.
sad.
It is. Um, I want to give a quick update to what we were talking about earlier with the Kansas City potentially getting an NHL team. So, Gary Bettman, the commissioner of the NHL, has released a statement, quote, "The National Hockey League is terribly disappointed by the results of the public referendum regarding the Coyotes. We are going to review with the Coyotes what the options might be going forward." Um, so, for those that don't know, the vote took place after the city of Phoenix and Sky Harbor International Airport expressed concerns about residences that were part of the project in a high noise area under the airport's flight path. And since moving to Arizona, the Coyotes have played in 3 different venues, and they were hoping a new arena in Tempe, Arizona would allow them to just settle down. Obviously, that's not going to happen. And like we said, there's a lot of cities in mind that could very well fill in. Um, so it's just a big mess of what can happen. Um, so and just stick to Interstate 70 Sports Media as we delve more into that. But I'll be honest, there's not been a whole lot going on in the world of sports. I know we'll be keeping you posted as St. Louis native Jason Tatum is in the conference finals as the Boston Celtics take on the Miami Heat. As of now, in the first quarter, the Celtics are up against Miami, but in basketball, the score changes so fast. But we'll
Hmm.
continuously keep you updated. But other than that, honestly, folks, we're going to wrap it up here this week of Roundabout Sports. I definitely want to thank Babs so much for being on. Always be sure that the NAMI hotline is available at 1-800-950-NAMI. That's 1-800-950-NAMI. It's the largest grassroots independent campaign organization in the United States in regards for advocacy of mental health and mental awareness. Um, and as always, we put up at the end of every show the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. Unfortunately, it was a situation that I had to encounter with a close friend earlier today. But if you need any help, you dial 988. The line is open 24/7, 365, 366 on leap years. Understand that you're never alone in this world. You always have the purpose and a reason for being here. Um, and there's always somebody that's just a phone call or text message away. And you could also be the person that could be able to be there for someone else. So I just want to thank you all so much for tuning in. We'll be back soon. Until then, as always, she's Babs. I'm the Maestro Jeremy Carp. And remember, life is a book full of empty pages just waiting to be written in. Make your lives worth